So as a trainer and assessor, it's important to know where to go to navigate within this 200-page document, the ACSF, the Australian Core Skills Framework. So I'm drawing your attention now to the reading core skill, and we're looking at level 3, which is the minimal functional level of communication in the workplace, in a social setting at home, and also in training. So you'll see here I've got on the left-hand side the page up about the domains of communication, and this is where it directly links through to functional reading outside of work, functional reading in the workplace, and there's a third domain which is in a learning environment. So as a trainer and assessor, we're particularly focusing on understanding, or at least being able to know how to navigate this document and look at where we're going to be designing our training from a learning perspective, or in a workplace context as well. So just popping up here again, we have on the right hand side here reading level 3 sample activities. So to help you appreciate the types of testing that might be done by an LLN expert, they would be matching it to these types of activities to ascertain whether the learner is functioning at a level 3 reading level. So the one we're going to draw our attention to right now is in training and education. Okay, so at a Certificate 4 level, usually a lot of your your training sources will have been designed for you, and it's more when you're getting into a diploma level that you need to be focusing more effectively on this and matching it to the LLN needs. But look, it doesn't hurt at a Certificate 4 to start to have an appreciation of this and understand where you can be pulling information. This is just another resource now. This Australian Core Skills Framework is a document you can resource to help meet the needs of your client base. So we're dealing with Susan, and we're looking at her doing a Certificate 4 in training and assessment. As we know, Susan is already a primary school teacher. So her Australian qualifications framework level is much higher than a Certificate 4. But how does this tie in with her core skills? What about her core skills of reading? So this is where we can start to look at the core skills framework and figure out what would have been functioning at that university level and what would be required at this vocational Certificate 4 level, because it's Certificate 4 in training and assessment, which might be very different to Certificate 4 in another vocational area. But what I've done here is I've highlighted some of the different tasks from these sample tasks of how you are learning as part of our Certificate 4 in training and assessment. And this is exactly the course materials that Susan would be exposed to. So at the moment, you're using a text organiser as an aid to locate information. So you've been using right now the table of contents. So we'll interject at this point of the lecture for a minute to review some explicit instructions on using a table of contents. So you've had an independent turn following some written instructions on the table of contents, but this is a more explicit audio-visual guideline, which is support. So if you didn't manage that yourself at a level 3, then this particular task would be actually recorded at a level 2 for you. So for someone who had not had experience before in using a table of contents to take you to the ideal place in the document that you wanted to get to, then you would need to be taught that. It's not that the level is locked in stone. Sometimes assessment is for learning. Sometimes the learning activity itself commands the learning. So here we are. We're at our table of contents page at our Australian Core Skills Framework document, and we would be scrolling down to the reading area, And we're going to look at level 3, which is that benchmark functional level. This is the lowest level for functional reading. And we can just scroll across, scan our eyes across, and we know that reading at a level 3 is discussed on page 53 here on the right hand side. So what we would do, because this is an electronic document, we would go to the section of our software program. In this case it's Microsoft Word, and in the version that I'm using here it's just down in the bottom left hand corner. So we would just click on that box where it says page 3 of 189, and it brings up a go-to box. So we would have had find. We could have got to that by a Control F for the find box. This way, clicking on the page, we're going to the go-to page, and we can enter the page number. So we've entered here page 53 and go to. We'll just close that off now because we're exactly where we want to be. We're scrolling down now, so we're scanning down to the section that we want to get to, which is the domains of communication. And we're back now at education and training. So you can see the very first point, they're using text organisers in books and manuals as an aid to locating information. We've just used that table of contents. So some of the other skills in this course, the way that this course has been designed, is for you to follow information, i.e. the YouTube instructions. Identifying relevant information from a range of written texts. Well, this text, the Australian Core Skills Framework 200-page document, is one text. Another text to build up our range of text is your Microsoft Word document that contains a range of other texts. It contains the YouTube clips, it contains embedded documents, it contains questions, so there's multiple forms of texts at that level 3. You need to read and interpret diagrams, and in this case, in this particular unit of competency, we're looking at the spiky profiles. You need to interpret information from those tables in the spiky profiles and make recommendations. So when we look at John and we might see that his current level is under the red bar, so his actual liney spiky one is beneath the red bar for what's required in that course, we can then make recommendations to get some LLN support for John. Whereas when we interpret and look at Susan's, we'll find that her line level, her actual level of performance, sometimes exceeds what's required at the red bar level, which is the certificate for. So that's part of making those interpretations. So yes, with Susan in this course, she's really looking at a reading level 3 for this course, but through her degree she was operating more quite successfully and independently at a level 4.